All right, well, Bradley Manning, Thomas Drake, John Kiriakou, the list of whistleblowers who had faced retaliation by the U.S. government goes on. It's a battle that my next guest knows about firsthand. Sibel Edmonds joined the FBI in the wake of 9/11 as a translator. During her time there, she reported serious acts of security breaches and cover-ups for which she was retaliated against and ultimately fired. Now she edits the Boiling Frogs Post and serves as the director of the National Security Whistleblowers Coalition, a group that she has founded. Sibel, welcome to the program. Now, the Obama administration has, in fact, charged a record number of people under the World War I era espionage, 6 people. But at the same time, the U.S. is in the midst of multiple wars abroad. We have the war on terror. Is it really accurate to say that there's a war against whistleblowers at a time when the government also has a responsibility to protect state secrets?
Well, the war against the whistleblowers has been going on for a long time. However, it has been steadily increasing. We thought that it had reached its peak during the previous administration. This was the Bush administration, and that was when I was retaliated against. They invoked the state secrets privilege to classify my case, gag me. And I really thought this was really the worst I would ever see in this country in terms of retaliation against government whistleblowers, truth tellers, even journalists. However, since President Obama's election, since his presidency, it actually has reached unprecedented levels. And when people, and this is the statistics that I'm giving you, has invoked the state secrets privilege and persecution and prosecution of whistleblowers that he has taken on exceeds all the United States presidents combined. With all the bad stuff with the previous administration, we didn't have a single whistleblower prosecuted. And we are talking about 8 years. And here, within the first 3 years of Obama administration, we have had 6 that we know of, because in some cases, even the existence of grand jury is classified secrets.
Now, the assertion here is that this so-called war against whistleblowers is supposed to dissuade sort of other people from speaking out as well. But I sort of want to broaden the discussion because it's almost as if dissent is the target here. Earlier this month, we saw a top U.S. official telling the New York Times that anyone that criticizes the U.S. drone program is helping al-Qaeda succeed. Are we sort of seeing a blurred line between activism and terrorism these days?
Absolutely not, because, yes, you're right. It is blurring line and it's getting worse. And unfortunately, most people here in the United States, they still think that these laws and these actions are geared towards some suspect terrorists or since 9/11. And now, unfortunately, because we don't have a real media, good investigative reporting, and because these cases are not being reported the way they're supposed to be reported, Americans still don't know that here these are American citizens, these are government insiders who are being prosecuted, persecuted, and haunted just because they have told the truth, or they have exposed criminality, or as you just said, they have simply engaged in criticism of the government.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the role of the media, because that's something I wanted to bring into this discussion. Here at RT, we've dedicated a lot of time to covering WikiLeaks, whistleblowers, the Occupy Wall Street movement, and so forth. We've also gotten a lot of criticism for that, not the least of which came from our decision to give Julian Assange an opportunity to do a 10-part series on this network next month. The outrage has been so bad that, in fact, one of our frequent commentators, Heather Sermo, publicly announced that she's no longer going to appear on RT because we're giving Assange a platform. Have you seen sort of a trend where the press becomes essentially a mouthpiece for the government, and any sort of outlets that counteract that are retaliated against?
Absolutely. And it has been the case for a long time. I can start with my own case. This was absolutely the case because, you see, with the courts and Congress, they usually watch the media. And if they see traction on a case, in fact, they feel kind of forced to do something, to at least appear to be doing something. But with media, just putting maybe one headlines here, or actually joining the government in terms of persecuting the whistleblowers. I mean, if you just look at the reportage, they say, this whistleblower disgruntled. They usually use adjectives like disgruntled, alleged. On the other hand, we have been lied by our own government for the last 10 years so severely. When they get their information from the heads of these agencies, they are reporting it as confirmed fact. But even if you bring them 3 credible veteran whistleblowers from veteran government agents that expose criminality, they still stick with that alleged, disgruntled, and that they have been the enablers in this scenario, and I would hold them up in terms of accountability, in terms of what has been happening with whistleblowers, right up there with the White House, the executive branch, Congress, media has been up there, and unfortunately, that's been the case with many so-called quasi-pseudo alternative media channels as well. So I'm very glad that you haven't given up and you're covering this.
Well, thank you, Sibel. And unfortunately, in all of this, it's the American people that suffer because, again, we get our information from the press most often, and it's important to essentially treat whistleblowers as citizens and not terrorists at a time when there is so much information that's not publicly released. Sibel, thank you so much. That was Sibel Edmonds, editor of the Boiling Frog Post and director of the National Security Whistleblowers Coalition.